Hello, dear students. Welcome to Neetshala. This is Suyeshi. This is the initiative of Neetshala to bring audiobook for every chapter of biology so that you can utilize your time to the maximum. This audiobook can be utilized best by hearing every day one chapter before you sleep, and also no need to look at the screen always, because these mobile phones and androids are equally harmful to your eyes. Taking care of your health, we have brought this audio book. So let's start with the first chapter. How wonderful is the living world? The wide range of living types is amazing. The extraordinary habitats in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forest, ocean, freshwater lakes, desert, or hot springs, leave us speechless. The beauty of galloping horse, of the migrating birds, the valley of flowers, or the attacking shark evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among populations of a community, or even the molecular traffic inside a cell, makes us deeply reflect on what indeed is life. This question has two implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seeks answer to what living is, as opposed to the non living. And the second is a philosophical one and seeks answer to what is the purpose of life. As scientists, we shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try reflect on what is living. What is living? When we try to define living, we conventionally look for distinctive characteristics exhibited by living organisms. Growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment and mount a suitable response come to our mind immediately as unique feature of living organisms. One can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self replicate, self organize, interact, and emergence to this list. Let us try to understand each of these. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass and increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grows by cell division. In plants, this growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. In animals, this growth is seen only up to a certain age. However, cell division occurs in certain tissues to replace lost cells. Unicellular organisms also grow by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro cultures by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. One must remember that increase in body mass is considered as growth. Non-living objects also grow if we take in increase in body mass as a criteria for growth. Mountains, boulders, and sand mounds do grow. However, this kind of growth exhibited by non living objects is by accumulation of materials on the surface. In living organisms, growth is from inside. Growth, therefore, cannot be taken as a defining property of living organisms. Conditions under which it can be observed in living organisms have to be explained, and then we understand that it is the characteristic of living organisms. A dead organism does not grow. Reproduction, likewise, is a characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organism, reproduction refers to production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. Invariably and implicitly, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. In planaria, which is flatworm, we observe true regeneration. That is, a fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and becomes a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae, or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth. That is, increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence, we notice that in single celled organisms, we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce, such as mules, sterile worker bees, infertile human couples, etc. Hence, reproduction cannot be an all inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, no non living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. Another characteristic of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made of chemicals. These chemicals are big, belonging to various classes, sizes, functions, etc., or constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversions are chemical reactions or metabolic reactions. There are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, be they unicellular or multicellular. All plants, animals, fungi, and microbes exhibit metabolism. The sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring inside our body is metabolism. No non living object exhibits metabolism. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in cell free system. An isolated metabolic reaction occurring outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living nor non living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms without exception, isolated metabolic reactions in vitro are not living things but surely living reactions. Hence, cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. Perhaps the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms is this ability to sense their surrounding or environment and respond to their environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical, or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organs. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms, pollutants, etc. All organisms from prokaryotes to the most complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental cues. Photoperiod affects the reproduction in seasonal breeders, both plants and animals. All organisms handle chemicals entering their bodies. All organisms, therefore, are aware of their surrounding. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has self consciousness. Consciousness, therefore, becomes the defining property of living organism. When it comes to human beings, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patient lying in coma in hospital virtually supported by machines which replace heart and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self consciousness, are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non living. In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to underlying interactions. Properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cells but arise as a result of interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituent of the organelle but arise as a result of interactions among the molecular components comprising that organelle. These interactions result in emergent properties at a higher level of organization. This phenomenon is true in the hierarchy of organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self replicating, evolving, and self regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is the story of life on Earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organisms on Earth. All living organisms, present, past, and future, are linked to one another by sharing of the common genetic material, but to varying degrees. Diversity in the living world. If you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see without your naked eye, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observations in, the range and variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that you see represents a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity or the number and types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas, even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is identification. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature (ICBN). You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature (ICZN). The scientific names ensures that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names known to organism. Each name has two components, the generic name and the specific epithet. This system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system was given by Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific names better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera represents genus, while indica represents particular species or a specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. Biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin, irrespective of their origin. The first word in a biological name represents the genus while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. The first word denoting the genus starts with capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with small letter. It can be illustrated with the example of Mangifera, where M is capital, and Indica, where I is small. Name of the author appears after specific epithet, that is at the end of biological name, and is written in an abbreviated form as example Mangifera indica Linn. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were to think of Alsatians, we know that what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hair. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of wheat plants, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organism. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. Here you must recognize that taxa indicate categories at very different levels. Plants also form a taxa. Wheat is also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but you know that a dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammal, and dog represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on characters, all living organisms are classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structures, along with the structure of cell, development process, and ecological information of organisms, are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature are the process that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity, but also the relationship among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationships between organisms. Taxonomic categories. Classification is not a single step process but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category, and all categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. Each category referred to as unit of classification in fact represents a rank and is commonly termed as taxon, plural taxa. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insects represent a group of organisms sharing common features like three pairs of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified, and thus we give a rank or category. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represent category, categories further denote rank. Each rank or taxon in fact represents a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups or categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum, or division for plants, class, order, family, genus, and species. All organisms, including those in the plant and animal kingdoms, have species as their lowest category. Now, the question you may ask is how to place an organism in various categories. The basic requirement is the knowledge of character of an individual or group of organisms. This helps in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals of the same kind of organism as well as of other kind of organisms. Species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological difference. Let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, and Panthera leo. All the three names, indica, tuberosome, and leo, represent specific epithets, while the first word Mangifera, Solanum, and Panthera are genera and represent another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithets representing different organisms but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called tigris, and Solanum includes species like Nigrum and Melongena. Human beings belong to the species Sapiens, which is grouped into genus Homo. The scientific name, thus, for human being is written as Homo sapiens. Genus comprises a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregates of close related species. For example, potato, tomato, and brinjal are three different species but all belong to genus Solanum. Lion, Panthera leo, leopard, Panthera pardus, and tiger, Panthera tigris, with several common features, are all species of genus Panthera. This genus differs from other genus Felis, which include cats. Family. The next category, family, has a group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to genus and species. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. Among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Panthera, Petunia, and Datura, are placed in the family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera comprising lion, tiger, leopard is put along with genus Felis in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the features of a cat and a dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into two different families, Felidae and Canidae. I do repeat, among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, are placed in family Solanaceae. Order. You have earlier seen that categories like species, genus, and families are based on a number of similar characters. Generally, order and higher taxonomic category are identified based on aggregates of characters. Order being a higher category is the assemblage of family which exhibit a few similar characters. These similar characters are less in number as compared to different genera included in a family. Plant families like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae are included in order Polymoniales, mainly based on floral characters. The animal order Carnivora includes families like Felidae and Canidae. Class. This category includes related orders. For example, order Primata comprises monkey, gorilla, and gibbon, is placed in class Mammalia along with order Carnivora that includes animals like tiger, cat, and dog. Class Mammalia has other orders also. Phylum. Classes comprise animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, along with mammals, constitute next higher category called phylum. All these based on common features like presence of notochord and dorsal hollow neural system are included in phylum Chordata. In case of plants, classes with few similar characters are assigned to a higher category called division. Kingdom. All animals belonging to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called Kingdom Animalia in the classification system of animals. The kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is distinct and comprises all plants from various divisions. Henceforth, we will refer to these two category groups as animals and plant kingdoms. The taxonomic categories from species to kingdom have been shown in ascending order, starting with species in figure 1.1. These are broad categories, however, taxonomists have also developed subcategories in this hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. Look at the hierarchy figure in 1.1. Can you recall the basis of arrangement? Say, for example, as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristics goes on decreasing. Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the members within the taxon share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Hence, the problem of classification becomes the more complex. Taxonomical aids. Taxonomic studies of various species of plants, animals, and other organisms are useful in agriculture, forestry industry, and in general in knowing our bioresources and their diversity. These studies would require These studies would require correct classification and identification of organisms. Identification of organisms require intensive laboratory and field studies. The collection of actual specimen of plant and animal species is essential and is a part the prime source of taxonomic studies. These are also fundamental to studies and essential for training in systematics. It is used for classification of an organism, and the information gathered is also stored along with the specimens. In some cases, the specimen is preserved for future studies. Biologists have established certain procedures and techniques to store and preserve the information as well as the specimens. Some of these are explained to help you understand the usage of these aids. Herbarium. Herbarium is a storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed, and preserved on sheets. Further, these sheets are arranged according to a universally accepted system of classification. These specimens, along with their description on the herbarium sheets, become a storehouse or repository for future use. The herbarium sheets also carry a label providing information about date and place of collection. English, local and botanical names, family, collector's name, etc. Herbaria also serve as quick referral systems in taxonomical studies. Botanical gardens. These specialized gardens have collection of living plants for future references. Plant species in the gardens are grown for identification purpose, and each plant is labeled indicating botanical scientific names and its family. The famous botanical garden are at Kew, England, Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, India, and at National Botanical Research Institute, Lucknow, India. Museum. Botanical museums are generally set up in educational institutes such as schools and colleges. Museums have collection of preserved plants and animal specimens for study and reference. Specimens are preserved in containers or jars in preservative solution. Plants and animal specimens may also be preserved and as dry specimen. Insects are preserved in insect boxes after collecting, killing, and pinning. Larger animals like birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved. Museums often have collection of skeletons of animals too. Zoological parks. These are the places where wild animals are kept in protected environments under human care and which enable us to learn about their food habits and behavior. All animals in a zoo are provided, as far as possible, the conditions similar to their natural habitat. Children love visiting these parks, commonly called zoos. Key. Key is another taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. The key are based on contrasting characters, generally in a pair called couplet. It represents the choice made between two opposite options. This results in acceptance of one and rejection of the other. Each statement in a key is called a lead. Separate taxonomic keys are required for each taxonomic category, such as family, genus, and species for identification purpose. Keys are generally analytical in nature. Floral manuals, monographs, and catalogs are some other means of recording descriptions. They also help in collected identification. Flora contains the actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of a particular area. These provide the index to plant species found in a particular area. Manuals are useful in providing information for identification of names of species found in an area. Monographs contain information on any one taxon. I do repeat, flora contains actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of a given area. Thank you.